You walk into a coffee shop, $5.45 for a paper cup with a green logo. The raw beans, milk, sugar, and cup cost the chain well under $1 to put in your hand. You drink it. It tastes good. It tastes better than the gas station coffee you bought yesterday for $2. The coffee in both cups was grown on the same hillside. That gap between under $1 of inputs and $5.45 of price, between $2 of coffee and almost 3 times as much for the same drink, wasn't built by accident. 8 billion people now wake up every morning and run on it. To understand why your wallet keeps emptying for things you didn't plan to buy, start with the numbers. In 2025, U.S. companies are forecast to spend $466 billion on advertising, up from $422 billion the year before. Roughly 1.5% of the entire U.S. economy, running every day in every channel, in every spare second of consumer attention. That money doesn't disappear, it's recovered through prices. Divide $466 billion by 127 million U.S. households, and the average American family pays around $3,670 a year embedded in everything they buy, just to fund the marketing that convinced them to buy it. Now zoom in. The average American consumer sees between 6,000 and 10,000 ad impressions per day, walks through 3 to 5 professionally designed retail environments per week, encounters 300 to 500 branded logos per shopping trip. By age 3 to 4, U.S. children can already recognize 80 to 100 corporate logos. You didn't pick the brands you love. They picked you. About 30 years before you walked into the store. On paper, paying a brand premium makes sense. 5 clean arguments line up behind it. The quality argument. Brand premium often correlates with real engineering and durability. A well-built watch, a well-tuned car, a well-stitched coat. Paying for the logo sometimes pays for actual better materials. This argument isn't fantasy. At the top of the price ladder, it has empirical support. The time argument, brands compress decision cost. Recognizing a familiar logo on a shelf takes 200 milliseconds. Reading nutrition labels and component specs on 5 competing products takes 10 minutes. For most non-critical purchases, brand as shortcut is rational time budget management. The coordination argument. Shared brand recognition creates social anchors. Owning the same phone as your colleagues means you can troubleshoot together. Brands serve as social glue, not just status hierarchy. The aesthetic argument. Some brand premiums pay for genuine design. The visual language of a well-made product is real craft, and consumers paying for it are paying for work they value. The identity argument. People build narrative around the things they own. The brands you wear, drive, and display tell a coherent story about who you are. This is anthropologically universal. 5 arguments. None of them wrong. This episode isn't an indictment of buying things or of brands or of marketing as such. It's a structural observation about a specific gap, the gap between what you think you're paying for and what the math says you're actually paying for. Picture the trade as it actually happens, not on paper, in your week. Monday, you walk into a grocery store for milk and eggs. You leave 40 minutes later with a cart that's roughly half things you didn't write on your list. Documented industry research. After about 40 minutes of shopping, most people stop being rationally selective and shift to emotional shopping. Half the cart gone. Tuesday, you scroll your phone for 11 minutes before bed. 25 to 40% of what you saw was paid promotion, often disguised as someone you follow. You've already made a mental note about 3 things you might buy. Wednesday, you buy a hoodie online, $200. The same hoodie in the same Vietnamese factory, cut from the same fabric, sewn by the same workers earning $200 to $300 a month, sells without the logo for $20. The manufacturing cost on both is roughly $10. Logistics, $2. wholesale and retail margin between $5 and $50. The remaining $130 to $150 on the premium hoodie is, in plain language, the price of psychological infrastructure, marketing campaigns, celebrity endorsements, magazine spreads, decades of brand cultivation that taught your brain to read one logo as premium and the other as generic. The hoodie is the same. What's different is what your brain has been trained to believe about the logo. This episode is sponsored by my own private community. If those numbers made you want to recognize these levers in your own buying, this is built for it. A community where I work through over 100,000 applied breakdowns. How scarcity framing fires in your feed, how social proof gets manufactured, how status pricing gets engineered, not theory, applied to real purchases people are about to make. Link is in the description below. All right, back to the diagnosis. Most people picture the dynamic as a personal problem, lack of discipline, bad with money, easily influenced. Sometimes those are real. Underneath them, 3 named mechanisms work at the same time in 3 different layers. None of them is a personal flaw. Mechanism 1. Robert Cialdini, a social psychologist, spent nearly 3 years undercover in sales organizations, used cars, dance studios, fundraising, telemarketing, documenting which exact cognitive shortcuts trained sales professionals were exploiting. He published his findings in 1984 in a book called Influence. He found 6. Reciprocity, scarcity, authority, commitment, liking, social proof. The less of something there is, the more people tend to want it. That's Cialdini's scarcity principle in his own words. Sales professionals had been shipping it commercially for decades before academia wrote it down. Mechanism 2, Daniel Kahneman, an Israeli-American psychologist who won the Nobel in economics in 2002, spent his career mapping 2 parallel decision systems in the human brain. System 1 is fast, automatic, emotional, pattern matching, operates below awareness in a few hundred milliseconds. System 2 is slow, deliberate, calculating, energy expensive, engages only when System 1 hits a problem it can't auto-resolve. Marketing is, almost without exception, designed for System 1, logos recognized in 200 milliseconds, limited edition framing triggering loss aversion in 400 milliseconds. Aesthetic cues, the green logo, the perfect typography, the matte finish, bypassing System 2 entirely. System 1 decides before System 2 finishes thinking. Mechanism 3, Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud, applied his uncle's psychoanalytic theory to mass market consumer behavior starting in 1923. By 1928, he published a book titled Propaganda, the founding document of modern public relations. He didn't hide what he was doing. We are governed, our minds molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested. Bernays engineered the campaign that taught American women to smoke, the campaign that made bacon the proper American breakfast. The infrastructure he built between 1923 and 1939 is the same one running today, with vastly more data and personalization. 3 mechanisms, 3 different decades, 3 different layers, all compounding on the same hunter-gatherer brain. Once you see the 3 mechanisms, the rest of the story is what they do, because at the level of one life and one economy, at the level of one life. The median American household pays roughly $3,670 a year in price markups attributable to brand premium and ad spend recovery, carries between $5,000 and $8,000 a year in branded discretionary purchases, clothing, electronics, beauty, prepared food, where comparable quality unbranded alternatives exist at 30 to 70% lower price. Encounters around 3,000 limited edition or scarcity framings per year across digital and retail. Spends 7 to 9 hours a week in environments professionally laid out for impulse exposure. That's one household. Now zoom out. The $466 billion U.S. advertising and marketing economy is roughly 1.5% of GDP, about 2.5 times the size of the entire U.S. video game industry, about 8 times the size of the U.S. book publishing industry, comparable in scale to total U.S. healthcare administrative overhead. It is enormous. It is profitable. It is not going anywhere. Every brand spends to maintain the share of mind they've already paid for because share of mind decays. The Bernays infrastructure has to be fed continuously to keep producing. 3 layers of damage. Same logic. Keep paying or admit the system has stopped working on you. Once you see the mechanism in full, the system stops looking like a market malfunction. It starts looking like a strip mining operation. Your brain didn't evolve for this. 200,000 years of small band hunter-gatherer life shaped 4 heuristics that worked extremely well in the savannah, tribal copying. If everyone in your band ate the red berry and lived, the red berry was probably safe. Skepticism was costly. Today, that heuristic reads star ratings and in 10 million sold badges. Loss aversion, missing a hunting opportunity or a fertile mating window cost reproductive fitness. Psychic urgency around scarcity was selected for. Today, that heuristic reads countdown timers and only 3 left in stock. Status sensitivity. High-status individuals had access to resources, mates, and information. Reading status signals quickly mattered. Today, that heuristic reads logos. Aesthetic gravity, symmetry signaled health, gloss signaled freshness, craft signaled care. Today, that heuristic reads packaging, assembled by professional designers, reverse engineering brain pleasure response curves. None of these heuristics evolved for environments where tribal signals can be manufactured by marketing departments, where scarcity can be artificially imposed by inventory throttles, where status can be purchased through a logo licensing fee, where aesthetic signals are assembled in a Manhattan studio at industrial scale. The infrastructure of the last 100 years has been a strip mining operation against the predictable cognitive shortcuts of a hunter-gatherer mind. That is not a moral indictment. It's a structural description. For an individual participant, this means 3 things. There is no person to blame. There's no policy to vote against. There is no exit ramp the system itself provides. That doesn't mean there's no exit. Recognition is the first move. Naming the lever is the move that turns a system you're inside of into a system you can stand inside of with intention. The default is keep buying forever. 3 rules to take from this. Rule 1. The price tag and the cost are different numbers. Always. Before any non-trivial purchase, ask, what fraction of this price is fabric, labor, freight, and design, and what fraction is psychological infrastructure I'm renting from a brand? You won't always know the answer, but asking the question moves the decision from System 1 to System 2, which is the entire game. Rule 2, the lever has a name. When you feel the urge to buy, name which of the 6 it is. Reciprocity, scarcity, authority, commitment, liking, social proof. Naming the lever doesn't make the urge disappear. It makes the urge legible. And legible urges are the ones you can choose to act on or not. Rule 3, the system doesn't have an exit ramp, so build one. Define the categories where brand premium pays you back: durability, quality engineering, social coordination, real craft, and the categories where it doesn't. For the second set, default to unbranded. For the first, pay the premium with your eyes open. These are operational rules, not philosophical ones. They don't fix the system. They give you a way to stand inside it without being run by it. In 1928, Edward Bernays wrote 9 words that read like they were written this morning. We are governed, our minds molded, our tastes formed. 98 years later, U.S. advertising spend is approaching $500 billion. The average American sees up to 10,000 ads a day. 3 to 4-year-olds can name 100 logos. Nobody anywhere chose this. It grew on its own, the way coffee grows on a hillside in Ethiopia, except this hillside is your prefrontal cortex, and the harvest is the gap between under $1 of inputs and $5.45 of price. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe. There's a lot of math worth understanding. Numbers don't lie. But they don't explain themselves either.